Life in London, written by Kelsang Pavo, read by Venkat. It was time for me to board the train to London. I'm a Buddhist monk living in the countrysides of Essex in the UK. The place I live is full of nature and farm animals. In contrast to London, the big city I am now traveling to. His Holiness the Dalai Lama was coming to London to deliver a public talk, and I'm going there to attend his talk on the importance of compassion. That is the reason I'm boarding the train. In the train, people see me wearing the Buddhist robes and come to talk to me. People in the UK are curious to know about Buddhism and its values, thanks to His Holiness and the media. People of various walks of life come to talk with me. Entertainers, family men, children, and elderly people, all of them. Similarly, even during this journey, an elderly gentleman and his wife came to converse. We spoke of various things, Buddhism, their lives, and the question everyone asks me, well, how did you become a monk? After 5 hours of journey, we are in London at last. The couple and I exchange emails and we take a photograph together. As the train enters Paddington Station in London, we say goodbye to each other. How relaxed life is when we have time for each other and care for each other, I think to myself. As I step out of the train, life is completely different. Life in London, like all large cities across the world, is very busy and often hectic. Every person, it seems, is pushing against the crowd to get quickly to their destination. It is hard to imagine so many mobile phones, so many conversations, and so many deals to be made. In the city, the noise levels everywhere seems to be immense. Mixed in one large blend of sound are the voices of 1,000,000 people. The horns of bumper-to-bumper traffic of cars, buses and motorcycles are heavy. The loud music piped from shops to attract people to make a purchase of something that they do not really need is everywhere. There is a huge buzz, but how much of such noise is really needed is questionable. The tube trains that run under the city streets are packed and is overflowing with those commuters who fight to surface, like fish rising for air in an overpopulated pool. People do not seem to wait for each other or think of giving way to one another. They just rush to get in and to finish their tasks. If such behavior builds into people's professional and personal lives, then in the years to come, a concern for others will grow thinner, I think to myself. As I walk through the pathways in the streets, it is as if that the stress on people's faces make them look like they're wearing a grotesque mask. They look in pain, as though they are going to explode from frustration at any moment. Whilst they are trying to express a calm patience, they are burying an anger that they can barely conceal. I took a few deep breaths and closed my eyes for a while. In that short time, I was able to feel at least 100 people to have crossed me left and right, back and forward. Some people even complained, "Why is it that I'm standing there for?" I was calm, just standing with my eyes closed and breathing deeply. I wondered why these stressfully looking people do not do the same for a moment. I smiled to myself at this reflection and walked along. There, I see in the pathway, among the insane rush for riches that people want to materialize, is the lonely road sweeper. He's trying desperately to run his brush along the uneven pavements that are ingrained with blotches of chewing gum. It is his job to keep the streets clean of lunch wrappers and plastic cups. But his task is impossible as he is overwhelmed by a sea of entangled people. I smile at him warmly. Initially, he looks at me with some suspicion. As I keep on radiating a genuine smile, he smiles back and says hello. We exchange a few pleasant words, for it is well known that pleasant words are the ones that he seldom gets. I do not wish to interrupt him in his work, so I wish him a good day and walk on. Near the cross streets in the Westminster Road, the police and ambulance sirens bleat and cross the red traffic lights at great speed. There are protesters shouting slogans and carrying flags who march across the city before settling for the day in front of one embassy or the other. Today, the march is for human rights, and tomorrow, probably it might be for the rights of animals or the environment. I wished that these protesters actually acted more upon their values and not just stopped with protesting only. It was evident that some traffic was being blocked for the protesters. There is a police van with a few officers trying to take control of the traffic. As I walk slowly along the streets, I see the cranes hanging over immense building constructions with giant steel swinging overhead. But steel cranes appear to be the size of lolly sticks as it is guided into its place by construction workers who move from one country to another in a relentless search for the next tallest building for them to erect. To my left are the newspaper vendors standing outside the railway station, shouting the news of the day. Billboards display the daily headlines of war and other tragedies. Our young soldiers are killed in Afghanistan. A British traveller lost in storm at sea, or the Chancellor is planning to raise the taxes. Always the news is hard to bear. Never it seems to be inspiring, and seldom it seems to be encouraging. When I contemplate on such wars and tragic events, it is usually the presumed self-importance of an individual, usually a leader who is corrupt with power and control. These unethical leaders always presume that they can leave behind a strong and permanent mark in the history to come. Alas, all that they manage to leave behind are scars in the hearts of the affected people. Why don't they understand? Why? Why don't they understand the principle of impermanence? The principle that says that everything changes and everything is impermanent. I think to myself and walk along in the busy city. It was a Friday evening, and well, a sense of joy fills the air as the weekend approaches. On Friday evenings after work, a lot of the employed leave their jobs and head for the pubs and clubs. They would party until Monday when the work and the clockwork mundane routine of a new week starts again. Amidst the rush for such riches and instant pleasures sits the beggars and the buskers. Some of them are with signs written on scraps of cardboard, pleading for a few pennies, while some others sing songs that remind the passers-by of their memories of times gone by, when their lives were different and not so frantic. I sometimes sense a deep hidden melancholy in their voice. I should admit that a very few people in our cities are able to rest in peace. There is always something to think about and organize for later. All of them are caught up in a net that has woven them into a life that holds no great satisfaction. Even at a time of a day that is theirs to express free will, there are cues to join and patience to be shown. But there's little patience with the people to wait for their turn. There, in the distance of the garden, I see a group of Asian, African, and European looking 4 to 5 year old children playing harmoniously with each other. I stopped for a while to see them play. There was a lot of smile, laughter, and joy among the children. Some of the people who passed by the scene looked at the children play, and an instantaneous smile filled their face. I could not help but reflect on the fact that no one is born with mental stress or with preconceptions of hatred towards each other. What happens as they grow up that changes them? Do they just grow up to lose this harmony? I think to myself that it is children like these who are going to make up the future of the society. To make the future society better, our children of today must be taught not only to lose this harmony that they possess when they are young. To make the future society better, our children of today must be taught not to lose this harmony that they possess when they are young. It is important that not only scientific and mathematical subjects are taught to them, but also important humane elements such as secular ethics, compassion, and the ways to be in peace with themselves and with others should be a part of the curriculum. This would ensure for a more harmonious society, and probably the life in London and other big cities might change in a few years from how it looks now. With such reflections, I start walking. As I walk along such rush and roar of life, I arrive at the hall for His Holiness' talk. The tickets are on sale to see and hear His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is to appear at the Royal Albert Hall. Great excitement had already filled the streets. I see that the crowd who wished to hear his wisdom formed into an orderly queue, reigned over by silence and Buddhist values. There is joy in the faces of people, a sense of expectation born out of this opportunity seemed to have engulfed their hearts. Such a contrast from what I had seen before. I smiled to myself. The air is filled with a sense of hope as I joined the queue. This I thought was the proof that even in the madness of commercialism, there was an underlying great common sense and a belief in the profound meaning of compassion and in helping each other. Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama. End of story.